Hey, what's up guys? In this video, we'll be creating this kind of a dark and light UI theme transition using HTML, CSS and JavaScript. In case you're new here, my name is Charles. I am a JavaScript developer, a coffee lover, and I create coding content here on YouTube. Now that sounds awesome, so make sure you subscribe and turn on post notification so that you don't miss any of my videos. On my code editor, I have opened a new folder called Dark and Light UI Theme, which is empty. So I'll add a new file called index.html, enter, and I'll start by generating a HTML sample. Control space and I'll generate that sample right there. I'll add a title of Dark and Light UI theme. And the first thing that I want us to do is to link font awesome icons to our project, because we will be needing the sun and the moon icon right here. So to do that, go to fontawesome.com, and the first thing that you will see is that there is an upgrade to version 5, and the version 5 is what we want to use. So just click get started, and to use Font Awesome version 5, all you need to do is to create a kit. To create a kit, click on Start for Free, and you might need to create an account. And once you are on this page, you'll see a form where you will enter your project name, and then you can click on Create and Use this kit, and that will create for you a Font Awesome kit. Okay, after creating a kit, you'll see a profile icon at the top right corner of your page. Click on that and then go to kits, and you will see a kit that you have created. Click on that kit and you will have instructions on how you can use that kit. So all you need to do is to copy this code right here, which starts with a script tag, and copy it. Go to the head section of your HTML file and paste that code right there. Now we will be able to use Font Awesome icons in our project. The next thing that I want us to do is to start laying down the HTML structure of our page here. So right here, we will add a div with a class of container, and then inside this div we will add a checkbox which will allow us to transition between these two icons. So I'll create a checkbox with an ID of checkbox and a class of checkbox. So input hash checkbox and a class of checkbox. The type will be checkbox, and I'll also close at the end here. Now to see our changes, I'll expand here and open this with a live server. So you can see a checkbox was added. The next thing that we will do is to add a label which will have our icons. So this label will be the label for our checkbox label, and I'll add a class of toggle hyphen theme, and then for checkbox. So this for must be the same as this ID, okay, so that this label knows that it's for this particular checkbox. And in this label, I will add our two icons, which are Font Awesome icons. So I dot first dot far hyphen moon, enter, and then we will have an I dot first dot far hyphen sun, and that will create our moon and sun icons. So when I click on these icons, you can see that they are affecting our checkbox, and that is because these two icons are inside our label, and this label is for our checkbox. So that's cool. Let's continue and add our paragraph. So these two paragraphs that we have here, so that we can have some content to work with. So right here, I'll add a p tag, and I'll add some dummy text using lorem, enter, and I'll save. So this will auto format that particular long line. I'll copy this and paste it down here so that we have two paragraphs. So now you can see the two paragraphs were added, the icons and the checkbox are there, and that's it for our HTML structure. Let's go on and add a CSS file called main.css. So this CSS file have already been linked to our index.html file on line 8 here, and when I scroll here you can see main.css. I'll come here and select all the elements in our HTML page. I will remove the margin, so I'll set margin to 0, and also the padding I'll set it to 0, and I'll change the box sizing to inherit. Let's go ahead and select our container class, and we will set a min height of 100 VH. So this container will occupy the entire viewport, and then we can center our content, and we will be using flexbox. So right here we will say display of flex, and then align items to be center. We justify content to be center, and also we'll add a flex direction of column. So you can see our content is at the center. Let's also add a background color. So background, I'll set it to RGB, and this will take the value of 250, 250, 250. So it won't be exactly white, it will have some grayish, which I think is cool. Let's go ahead and select our p tags. So right here I'll say p, and I'll set the font family to be sans serif, and I'll change the font size to be 17px. I'll set a max width of 30 rem. I'll also add a border, and this will be 2px solid, and the color will be RGB 209, 209, and 209. So you can see there is now a border on our paragraphs. We can add a border radius for this corner and this corner. So right here we'll say border hyphen radius, and that will be 60px and 0px. So I'll add a semicolon here, and there we go. But you can see now the text is overflowing and going above the border. So to fix that, we can add a padding of 2 rem, and also we can add some margin of 1 rem. So this is already cool. Now let's go ahead and select our label, and remember we gave our label a class of toggle theme. So I'll select toggle theme, we will start by setting a background of RGBA 0, 93, 93 and 0.5 for opacity. You can see some background on our label which contains the icons. Now let's give it a height of 3 rem and a width of 3 rem. We can also add a padding of 5px, and the next thing that I want us to do is to center our icons inside the label. So we will add a display of flex. We will align the items at the center. We will justify content at the center, and there we have it. Let's add a border radius and make it circular. So border radius to be 50%. I'll add a position of relative, and then let's go ahead and add some hover effect on our label like we have here. So when I hover, you can see that we have some hover effect. So I'll come down here and select our label again. So toggle theme, but right now I'll add hover, and also I'll select it again, toggle theme, and I'll add focus. In here we can set the cursor to be pointer, and then we can set a transform, and what we want to do is to scale. So I'll use scale 1.1, and now when I hover, you can see that we have some effect. You can see it's so random than we have here, where we have a cool transition. And how we can fix that is to add a transition here. So transition, and we will set for the transform, we give it a duration of 0.5 seconds and ease. Okay, so when I hover now, you can see we have a cool transition there. Now let's go ahead and start styling our icons inside this label. So I'll select the icons using the .toggle class, and then I select the eye, and the eye will represent our icons. So the styling that we have here are the general stylings for both of our icons, and we will change the font size to be 2 rem so that they are much bigger. Right here, at our toggle theme, I'll also add an overflow of hidden, okay, so that everything that is overflowing will be hidden. And then we can position our icons to be absolute. So position for this will be absolute, and they will be absolute to our label. Remember, we added a position here of relative, so they will be absolute to our label. And let's select the individual icons and style each one of them. So I'll add a .far-sun class, and this will select our sun. So color will be RGB 255, 72 and 0. So that will change the color of the sun. And for now, we will set the opacity for our sun to be 0 so that we don't see it on the light mode. Okay, so opacity will be 0. and I'll add a semicolon there. So in the light mode, we'll only see our moon, but when we go to the dark mode, we will change the opacity back to 1. And then let's select our moon. So I'll come down here, select the far-moon class, and we will add a color of RGB 251 178 and 6. So we have that cool moon right there. So we will add some more styling for the far sun and far moon as we go along. For now, I want us to hide this checkbox, and you can see that it is still working when we click on our label, and that's very cool, but we don't need to see it. We want that to happen on the background. So what we can do is to come right here and select dot checkbox, and you can either set the opacity to 0, or you can say display to be none. Either of those will work. And something I have gone wrong. I'll cross this, and there we go. So we no longer see our checkbox that is happening at the background. Now what I want, when we select the checkbox, we want to change the icon here from the moon to the sun. And how we can do that is to select our checkbox class. So at the bottom here, I'll say dot checkbox, and then full colon checked, and then we will use this CSS selector. I'll tell you what it does in a minute. And we will select the dot toggle theme class, and then we will select the sun. So dot far hyphen sun, and now we can add some styling right there. So what does this line mean? What it means is that when the checkbox is checked, we will select the dot toggle theme class and select the sun. And why we are using this flow instead of going directly to the far sun is because this selector will select the element that follows this particular checkbox. Okay, so when we go to our HTML, that selector will select this label which is preceded by our checkbox. Okay, and we can also select our p tag, but not the elements that are deep here. Okay, what we can do to select these ones is to follow this path. We select the toggle class theme, and then we go and select our icons, and that is what is happening right here. We are selecting the label and then selecting the icon. So when the checkbox is checked, we can change the opacity of our sun to 1. So right here, I'll say opacity to be 1, and when I click, you can now see the sun, and when I click again, it disappears. So that's so cool, and we can do the same for our moon. When it is checked, we hide the moon. So all I'll do is select the whole of this, copy, and paste it at the bottom here. I'll paste it there and change this to moon and change the opacity to 0. So when I select it, we see the sun. When I select, we see the moon, and this is cool. So the next thing that I want us to do is to add some transformation for these two icons so that we can have some animation effect. And for the sun, when we have checked it, we will set a transform. We set the translate x to be 0px, and this is the original position that it is in right now, but we want the sun to move from a position outside this label. So what we can do is to come at the top here and set a transform, translate x, and we set this one to 50px. So now the sun will be moving from a position outside the circle, which is 50px, and coming in here, okay? But right now we can see it, we need to add some transition. So I'll add the transition to our eye tag right here, because this transition will be similar for both of our icon. It will be too much work to add to both of them. So right here I'll add a transition, and we will transition the transform. It will go for 0.5 seconds and ease. So when I click, you can see the sun is sliding in and then disappearing immediately, sliding in and disappearing immediately. We can add a transition for our opacity. So what I'll do is to add a comma and select opacity, set a duration of 0.5 seconds, ease. And we will also do the same for the color, okay? Color 0.5 seconds, ease. Now when I click, the sun comes in and goes out. So this is cool for the sun. We can do a similar thing for our moon. Right here, when it is checked, we want it to disappear and not appear on our label. And we will add a transform of translate x, and this time this will be negative 50px, and then we will set the transform here. We set translate x to be 0, and that's it for the moon. Now when I click, the moon goes away, sun gets in. When I click, comes in, sun disappears. So this is a very cool effect. The hover effect is there, the transition between our moon and the sun is there. The next thing that we need to do is to now add a dark mode. So when I click for the sun, we will see the dark mode comes in. When I click for the moon, we will see this light mode comes in. What I can do is to add a comment right here and call it dark theme. So all our dark theme styles will be below this comment. I will start by selecting the container, so dot container, and then we will be adding a class called dark using JavaScript. And this container on dark mode, it will have a background of RGB 0, 17 and 29. So to preview this, we can go ahead and add this dark class manually, and I'll come here and space dark. When I come back, that styling is not being added, and what we need to do is to remove the spacing between these two, and you can see the effect have taken place. We can also change the color to be hash FA, and this will change the text color to whitish. We can select the p tag, so I'll come here and say dot container dot dark and select the p tag. We select the border and change it to 2px solid, and the thing that will be changing is the color RGB to be 98, 98, 98. So we already have our two themes, the light mode and the dark mode. all we need to do is to add some JavaScript and add this dark class to our container every time we click the label, and that's all that we will be doing next. So right here I will remove this one, and then for this script src main.js, I'll add a property called differ, and this will make our JavaScript to load before the rest of the page instead of taking it at the bottom here. So I'll then come here and add a new file called main.js, enter. So we will select our checkbox ID using document.querySelector, and we use a hash checkbox, and also put this one inside quotes, and then we will be adding an event listener. So add event listener of change. So when are we changing our checkbox? We are changing our checkbox every time we click the label, it gets checked, and when we click it again, it gets unchecked. So that's when we are changing our checkbox. And then after this, we will add a callback function, which is an arrow function, and we will do something here. And what we will be doing is to add a class to our container. So right here we will use document.querySelector, and we will select our container class. So dot container, and then after this we will use dot class list and toggle the dark class, so in brackets dark, and remember to place this one inside the quotes. And those two lines of JavaScript code will do the magic. So every time we click this one, we go to dark mode. When we click it again, we go to light mode, and you can see how easy that was. So this is already working. The only thing that we can do is to add a transition for the background color, and to do that I'll just go to the main.css file and check our container right here. All we will do is to add a transition, and this will be for the background 0.5 second, and ease. Also we will do the same for the color, 0.5 seconds, ease. Now when I click, we have a cool transition for the colors and for everything else. And that's it. That's how you can create a cool transition of dark and light theme using HTML, CSS, and 2 lines of code of JavaScript. So I hope you have learned something from this video, and now you can add a light and dark mode on your website, and by doing that you'll be able to learn more. So that's it. I'll see you on the next video. Always stay awesome, and if you haven't subscribed yet, remember to subscribe for more cool videos just like this one.